The price of Ben's help. I sat in her office, staring at the report. There was no doubt about it. Julianne was cheating on me, and had been for quite some time. My suspicions had been aroused that night. She was drunk. Julianne doesn't drink often, but we went to a neighbor's house for a party they were throwing. Their son had come back from the Navy and proposed to his girlfriend. It was a lot of fun, and we both drank more than we should have. Neither of us were drunk, but we had a lot of fun, and when we got home, I was a little horny, to say the least. I went into the bathroom to brush my teeth and do my nightly chores, and by the time I was ready for bed, Julianne had fallen asleep, still fully dressed and only half lying on the bed. I went back into the bedroom, and seeing her so vulnerable, I ran my hand down her leg, hoping to wake her up and get some love. She was only half awake and moaned. "Please, Ben," she murmured. "No more." "My name is Steve. Ben is the guy she works with who had dinner at my house, whose wife I know, who we vacationed with. All of a sudden, I'm completely sober." I pondered all night. Isn't this just a Freudian slip? Maybe she's fantasizing about her coworker, or maybe they're actually doing more than just working together. I thought about asking her about it the next day, but I knew she'd either make me laugh or explode at me with anger. Julianne is a scary sight when she's angry, but I need to know. I'd love to say I'm the kind of man who can get his hands on surveillance equipment or order something from Amazon and tap her phone and purse, but that's not me. And according to most of the stuff I've read online about such things that you can buy on Amazon, they don't actually work. I'm also not the kind of person who has enough money to spend on private investigators. Oh, I'm doing okay. The house is pretty nice, and I'm up to date on all my payments, but I don't have thousands of dollars available. I work as an accountant for a small medical IT company. I handle payroll and expenses. Not the most exciting job in the world, but it pays the bills. Or at least my half of the bills. Julianne works too, at a local advertising agency. She creates text for both online and radio advertising campaigns. Admittedly, she hasn't managed to get anything of her own on television yet. She earns a little more than I do, and we've been saving together until we got to the point where she can take a break long enough to have our first child. Money we've been saving throughout our 4-year marriage. Love with Juliana is amazing. Even now, after 6 years together, it hasn't turned into a chore. I've heard of couples who do it once or twice a week or less. Always on the same day, every week, and always the same way. We're much more spontaneous. It's extremely rare for either of us to reject the other's proposal, no matter when or where, and she probably proposes to me more than I do to her. We make love an average of 4 times a week, and there isn't a single place in the house where we don't make love. That includes the garage, the attic, and even once crawling under the floor. Don't ask. I can't even say that anything has changed in our relationship. We still make love just as many times and are just as spontaneous as before. That's what I was clinging to, hoping that she just said the wrong name, simply because she works with Ben every day and is used to calling him by his first name. It was already 4 o'clock in the morning, and I still couldn't fall asleep. My mind kept spinning with thoughts and actions. How do I find out, and what do I do if she cheated? I generated one scenario after another where I catch her in the arms of her lover and do anything from blowing my own brains out in the room as they watched in horror at what was happening, to blowing his brains out and then hers. In other scenarios, I just say goodbye to her and leave in dignified silence, get in my car, and never see either of them again. But before any of that happens, I require to know if she is cheating. I silently got out of bed and went to the living room where she had dropped her purse when we came back from the party. I looked through it but found nothing. I don't know what I expected to find. Maybe contraceptives or love letters. But there's nothing like that. Her phone is blocked, but that's not a problem. I've watched her unlock it a few times, so I entered the number and looked through the calls and texts. There were calls and also texts to Ben. I read them, but they were all work-related. Every single one of them. Of course, I had no idea of the content of the calls, but there was still no evidence that she had done anything wrong. I was just about to put her phone back in my purse when it slipped from my fingers and fell to the floor. Shit. I thought I might have broken it. I picked it up and examined it closely for cracks or chips, and was relieved to find that there were none. I turned it over and saw that something had slipped between the phone cover and the camera lens. It looked like a credit card. I unclipped the phone cover and discovered that it was, in fact, a credit card. What's more, it's in her maiden name, and I knew nothing about it. Since I am an accountant, I am in charge of the family's finances. I don't handle the money, but I fill out all the forms, pay all the bills, including credit card bills, and do our tax returns. How or why she still has that credit card, I didn't understand. However, it increased my suspicion and fear. I looked into her phone again and searched for the app from the credit card provider. As expected, it was found and it was tucked away in a folder labeled Spam and filled with all the apps that come with the phone that you can't get rid of. I opened the app and found that a password was required. Fortunately or unfortunately, Juliana had set it up for fingerprint authentication, so I carefully snuck back into the bedroom and put her finger on the screen with extreme care. She didn't move. The app opened. Nervous that she might wake up even though she seemed so out of it, I sent every statement she had to the printer in my office down in the basement. Once the confirmation was done, I closed the app, put the card back in the stash, and slid her phone back into the case I'd thrown in her purse. With another peek into the bedroom, I went down to my office and grabbed the statements from the printer. It was all there. Transactions were twice a week, Monday and Thursday, usually around 3 in the afternoon. $45 from a motel chain. There was the name of the chain and the branch number. 10 minutes on the internet told me that the motel was 6 blocks from the office where she works. So twice a week, she visits the motel. Although it's pretty obvious why she visits the motel, I tried to think of other reasons why she might go there. Maybe they have some kind of conference rooms there and she takes clients there? I laughed at myself. I'm grasping at straws. Even so, I wouldn't believe it until I saw it all with my own eyes. I looked at the reports again and found that these visits started about a month ago. A sudden wave of nausea came over me, and I barely made it to the bathroom before I threw up. I was on my knees on the floor, spitting into the basin, when Julianne walked in and leaned over to stroke my back. "Had too much to drink?" she asked. "I had too. Can I get you something?" I shook my head, still clutching the papers in my hands and holding them to my chest, desperate for her not to see them. "I just need some time," I said. "Go back to bed. I'll be there in a minute." "Okay," she said sleepily. She leaned over again and kissed the back of my head. My forehead hit the toilet seat as I pulled away from her, but she didn't seem to notice. I stayed in the bathroom for another 15 minutes until the nausea passed, and then I went back to my office and hid the statements among the other papers. I knew there was no way Julianne would accidentally find them. She almost never comes into my office, even though I've pleasured her more than once by bending over my desk. As far as I know, she never goes in there when I'm not home. What do I know, though? For all I know, she's a faithful and devoted wife. I went back into the living room, but I couldn't bring myself to go into the bedroom. Instead, I sank down on the couch and stared at the wall, pondering. The thoughts continued to swirl around in my head. Only the most stubborn parts of me were still trying to cling to the fiction that she wasn't having an affair. But I still wasn't fully ready to accept reality. Still wanted more proof. I wanted to be completely sure. I also wanted to know what I would do if it was true. I know Ben. He's a friendly guy. Served in the Air Force, about an inch taller than me, and I have no doubt he could wipe the floor with me if he wanted to. His wife, Mary, I'm going to like very much. She is a happy woman, seemed always smiling, and their 3-year-old Tabitha is a total delight. She calls me Uncle Steve and has done so ever since I've known her. Divorce, of course. That would mean we'd both lose. The house would have to be sold, the proceeds divided. We each have our own retirement accounts, with hers a little larger than mine since she earns more. Since we have no children, I could be in an enviable position, as I would come out of the divorce better than most men. I doubted the court would award me alimony, but I was sure they wouldn't award it to her either. Financially speaking, the only ones who win in a divorce are the lawyers. I decided to go online and see how easy it is to get a divorce on your own. Perhaps if Julianne doesn't fight back, we'll come out of this fairly unscathed, at least financially. Divorce. Is that what I want? No, God, no. I love Julianne with everything I have, but I can't stay with someone who didn't love me back. I would literally take a bullet for her. That's how much I love her. I doubt it's the same in the other direction, though. She's taking something, but it's not bullets being shot at her. I felt another wave of nausea, but that one passed after a couple deep breaths. I decided to look online about divorces and then fell fast asleep. Julianne woke me up with a glass of water and a couple of Tylenol pills. "How are you feeling?" she asked, and her face was full of concern. I must look terrible. Looking at my watch, I realized I'd been asleep for about 3 hours. My head was splitting. My neck and back hurt from the weird position on the couch, and I had just found out my wife was cheating on me? "I feel better," I said. She smiled sympathetically. "Both you and me," she said. "I took some painkillers before my shower. My head is clearer now. How much did we drink last night?" "Too much," I said, trying hard not to burst into tears or start yelling at her. "Go take a shower," she said. "You'll feel a lot better afterward. I doubt that very much." I drank the pills and all the water, stood up heavily, and limping, went into the bedroom. I threw my clothes on the floor and got in the shower. "You could have put your clothes in the hamper," Julianne complained, walking into the bathroom and picking up the clothes I'd thrown on. "You could have kept your legs closed," I mumbled back. "Pardon?" she said. "I said sorry," I said loud enough for her to hear through the shower. "I was going to gather her up when I got out." "It's okay," she said. "I did it. Don't forget we're going to Ben and Mary's for dinner later." I'd forgotten. I was actually looking forward to it. Mary is an amazing cook and serves Michelin-level food. We have gotten in the habit of going to their place every other month, and they come to ours the following month. Julianne is a good cook and does a great job in the kitchen, but I've always preferred going to their place. Only today, I really didn't feel like going. "I'm not feeling very well," I said. "I think I might be sick with something." "It's nothing," she said. "You'll feel fine when the pills kick in." Besides, Tabitha would be heartbroken if she didn't see her Uncle Steve. We spent most of the day as we usually spend Saturday. Once or twice I saw a look in Julianne's eyes that said she was horny and trying to provoke me into making love. Each time I pretended not to notice and moved on to something else. I don't know if she noticed it or not, but I played the "I'm not feeling well" card all day. That seemed to suit her. I wasn't sure that even if I tried to make love to her, I could. I had a horrible feeling that I would either throw up on her or I just wouldn't be able to pull it off. My imagination isn't helping me at all. I spent most of the evening at Ben and Mary's in a depressed state. Tabitha came over and climbed into my lap, which was her habit when I'm their guest, and I hugged her. As soon as it made sense, I made her get off again, citing that I was sick and didn't want her to get sick too. "It's the alcohol," Julianne said. "You're not sick." "I still feel sick," I said, "and I'm also not drunk." Ben looked at me with concern on his face. "Oh, buddy," he said, "do you need some Tylenol or something?" I had an almost uncontrollable urge to punch him in the face, and then the image of him and Julianne appeared in front of me again. This time, she was kneeling in front of him. I barely made it to their bathroom before I emptied my stomach again. "Oh, baby," Julianne said, stroking my back again. "Maybe you're sick? Don't you want me to call a doctor?" I shook my head. "All they'll say is it's a virus," I said. "Tell me to drink water and call them in 3 days if I don't feel better." "Come on," she said caringly. "Come on. Let's get you home." I heard her thanking Ben and Mary for the food. When she said to Ben, "See you Monday," I threw up again. Fortunately, I had already emptied my stomach. I spent Sunday in bed. It was a good excuse to stay away from Julianne. I retired to the guest room, ostensibly so that if it was a virus, I wouldn't infect her, and also so as not to keep her up all night. Anyway, I slept for a good part of the day, but my dreams were torturous and jagged. I lost count of how many times I woke up in a cold sweat. I think I must have witnessed Ben and Julianne go through the entire Kama Sutra. In my dreams, they slept in every conceivable position, and every time I woke up just as Julianne was screaming in pleasure. "How are you feeling?" Julianne asked. It was Monday morning, and I was already up and dressed for work. We usually got up at the same time and left at pretty much the same time. Our offices are about the same distance from our house, but in different directions. "A little tired," I said. but I think I've gotten over it. Why don't you take the day off? She said. Make sure. I can't, I said. We've got a big audit coming up. I have to be there. She nodded and then leaned over to kiss my cheek. I tried hard not to pull away, and I succeeded. Okay, she said. Let me know if you need anything. I'll see you tonight. I nodded, and we both got into our cars and drove off in different directions. I drove 1 block, turned the corner, and stopped. I called my boss and told him I was sick and might not be in for a few days. Okay, he said. If you won't be in after Wednesday, call again. I said I would and hung up. I drove to my office and then turned off the location service on my phone. I didn't think Julianne would check on me, but if she did, she'd see that the last place the GPS detected me was at work. I then drove to the place where she works and parked. Left the car in plain sight, went and sat down at a coffee shop on a nearby street. I brought my laptop and sat by the window, sort of doing work. Ordered a coffee and a Danish pie. I was suddenly hungry. It was after 12 when I saw Julianne's car pull out of her company's parking lot. I'm sure she can't see me through the coffee shop window. I didn't run outside, having a good idea of where she was headed. Besides, Ben's car was still in the parking lot. I didn't want to run into him. Then a thought occurred to me. I had assumed that he was the one she was meeting at the motel, mostly based on the fact that she said his name. But what if it wasn't him? What if it was just an innocent mistake, and I accidentally stumbled upon her affair with someone else? I was about to leave the cafe when I saw Ben's car. It was driving in the same direction as Julianne's. I sighed. Was it from relief? Was it better or worse that he was the one she was cheating with? I left the cafe and drove to the motel. Now I had a problem. I saw Juliana's car in the parking lot, but it's parked outside the motel office. Ben's car is parked in front of one of the rooms. I was hoping that they were in that particular room. Otherwise, I would have to look in windows all over the motel. I'd probably get arrested. I approached the room and noticed that it was one of the few with the curtains closed, which was a good sign, or, at the very least, a sign that I had found the right room. Good is probably not the word I should have used. The front of the motel is in the shade, which was fortunate. If the sun was shining through the window, my shadow would be visible even through the curtains. I made my way to the unit and just sat on the floor under the window. Since Ben's car was parked in front, I couldn't be seen by anyone who wasn't on the walkway in front of the blocks. I listened and heard someone talking, a man and a woman, but I couldn't identify their voices or hear what they were talking about. I turned on my phone's camera and raised it over the edge of the windowsill. There was a gap of about 1/2 centimeter between the bottom of the curtains and the curtain rod. This is a cheap motel, after all. I was able to peer into the room where I saw Julianne sitting on the bed and Ben standing in front of her. All doubts were dispelled over the next 10 minutes as I watched and recorded the beginning of their sexual session. There could be no doubt about who was there and what they were doing. I crawled away from the window on my hands and knees. I had second thoughts of doing something to his car or hers, but there was no point. I just need to get home and put things in motion. It was 1:45. By 2, I was home. By 3, I had filled out and filed the divorce papers, printing out a copy for Juliana. I needed her signature. If she refused, I'd have to hire someone to serve her and go to court. If she signed, we could be divorced in just 60 days. I paid off and canceled our joint credit cards. I opened a bank account in my own name and transferred exactly half of our joint account balance into it. Made a statement of our finances, listing all of our assets, including the house, retirement accounts, and savings, of which he also took half. Everything was accounted for down to the last dime. I could have left, I could have moved my stuff out, but it was my home, too. I wasn't going to leave until I had to. I couldn't afford to stay in a motel or a hotel for an extended period of time. I still needed somewhere to live until this was over. I moved all my stuff into the guest room, clearing out the closet and drawers, downloaded the video file and photos onto my laptop, and printed out the shots from both the video and photos. I also scanned all my credit card receipts. I wrote a letter to Mary outlining what I had found and attached all my evidence. I scheduled it for 6 p.m. I wanted to give myself a chance to talk to Julianne before Mary found out. She would obviously inform Ben, who would, of course, call Julianne. I was ready. Unfortunately, it was still only 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and Julianne wouldn't be home until an hour later. I wondered what Ben would do when Mary pounced on him. The thought crossed my mind that he might barge in and attack me. I went to the garage and searched until I found what I needed. I have had this baseball bat since I was a teenager. It was a gift from my father, along with a ball, long lost, and a glove that looked like it had just been inhabited by a family of spiders. I picked up the bat, cleaned it, and carried it into the house, leaning it against the wall behind the couch. Close enough to my arm, but not immediately visible. I hoped I wouldn't need it. This time, Julianne actually came early. She walked into the house smiling. "Hi, honey," she said. "How are you feeling?" She looked at my face and at the stack of papers in front of me. None of them were visible to her. "Is something wrong?" she asked. "You could say that," I said. "Sit down. I have something to show you." She threw her purse on the floor and sat down in the chair across from where I was sitting on the couch. I held out the divorce papers to her. She looked puzzled at first, but then her eyes widened. "What are these?" she asked. "It says right here, right at the top," I said. "I don't understand," she said. "Divorce? Why do you—" "Aren't you?" I said. "Where were you today, Julianne?" "At work," she said. "You know that." "All day?" I asked. "Of course," she said. "So you didn't go out at all today?" "Steve," she said, "what's the matter?" I handed her the credit card statements. "So today was different from the last 4 Mondays and Thursdays when you went to the motel?" "Where did you get them?" she asked. A mixture of fear and anger appeared in her expression. "Does it matter?" I asked. "Were you spying?" she accused. "How could you?" "Really?" I asked with slight contempt in my voice. "Do you go there? How could I? You've been sneaking to the motel twice a week for the last month, and I'm wrong." "Steve," she said, catching her breath. "I know what it looks like, but I promise you it's not. I've had client meetings there. That motel—" "There are no conference rooms there," I said. I checked. "But they rent out their meeting rooms," she said. "It's a lot cheaper than using the convention center." "So what happens in these meetings?" I asked. "In a motel? Is that how you do business? On your back?" She jumped to her feet. "How dare you!" she almost screamed at me. "Do you think I sell myself to customers for business?" "No," I replied calmly. "I think you're sleeping with Ben. That's what I think." That stopped her. She sat down again. "Steve," she said. "No, I would never do that. I love you. I don't know what you think you know, but you've got it all wrong. I have meetings with clients, and at those meetings, we don't do anything but professional business." "In a motel?" I asked. "Yes. Which you pay for on a credit card that I know nothing about?" "I keep it separate because it's easier," she explained. "The company pays the bill. Otherwise, we'd have to pay tax on that, too." It wasn't true, but I wasn't going to explain tax law to her at the moment. I shook my head. "So today," I said, "when your car was parked in the motel parking lot, were you there with clients in a business meeting?" "My car?" she said. "I was driving by the motel and I saw your car." "Yes," she said. "It was a business meeting." "And I take it Ben was there too?" I said. "Because his car was in the parking lot too." "Of course he was," she said. "Look, I know what it looks like, but we were just having a business meeting there. I swear there's nothing going on between Ben and me. I love you. I would never cheat on you." I handed her a stack of pictures. She turned white. Her hand went to her mouth. Then I turned on the 10-minute video I'd recorded on my phone. I set it to stream to the TV. Even though the camera was shaking slightly, there was no mistaking who was there and what was going on. "Where exactly were the customers at that moment?" I asked. Tears began to flow from her eyes, and she started shaking her head. "No, no, 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 no," she said. "This can't be happening. He promised me it couldn't be." "It's over, Julianne," I said tiredly. "We're done. Sign the papers, we'll put the house on the market, and in 2 months it'll be ready. Then you can go out and date whoever you want. I'll go and hide in a corner and try to get some dignity back." "But he promised," she said. "He said we'd be okay." I looked at her, puzzled. "Who promised?" I asked. "Ben," she said. He said, "You'll never know, and if you do, you love me, so we'll be okay." What makes him think that? I asked. Why would you think that? I thought you loved me as much as I loved you. Why did you do this to me? And even more, why did you expect anything other than what would happen if and when I found out? Julianne sat up, put her face in her hands, and began to cry. My heart ached to see her in such a state, but I had nothing to offer her. I couldn't comfort the woman who had taken and trampled on my heart. In a way, I enjoyed her pain, the fact that she was experiencing at least a fraction of the heartbreaking pain I was experiencing. But in the same moment, my heart broke even more when I saw her suffering. I heard my laptop beep. My email had been sent. Why? I asked. Why did you do it, Julianne? What had I done to deserve it? Was I bad in bed? Did I ignore you? What? She shook her head, continuing to sob. It was only supposed to happen once, she said. He only promised me once. But why even once? I asked. I screwed up, she said, still sobbing. At work. I almost lost a big client. Ben managed to fix it, but if my bosses found out, they'd fire me. We'll survive, of course, but we can't afford a house if I lose my job. We were saving up money to afford to have kids, and we'd lose it all. There was even the possibility that the client could sue me. The price of helping Ben, she said. I had to sleep with him. It was only supposed to be one time. One day and that was it. I didn't want to, but I had no choice. If he showed my bosses what I did, I'd be fired and we'd lose everything. Why didn't you come to me? I asked. Even if it meant selling the house, we could have managed. I couldn't, she said. There wasn't time. I didn't have time. I had to make a decision to give him an answer here and now. I was so confused and frustrated, and I saw a way out, convinced myself that once wouldn't hurt, you'd never know, and we'd be back on an even keel. Even if I believed you, I said. You've been seeing him twice a week for a month. Why keep coming back? He blackmailed me, she said. The first time he made a video, I didn't know there were cameras in the room. He said if I didn't keep seeing him, he would show the video to you. What about Mary? I asked. Did she know? She shook her head. So he has as much to lose as you do if this gets out, I said. Do you expect me to believe he'd risk his own marriage to blackmail you? It doesn't make sense. I'm sorry, Julianne, but I don't believe you. You went to that motel room willingly, and from what I saw on the screen, you were having a good time. Now you're telling me he was blackmailing you? No, I don't believe that. But it's true, she said. I had no choice. There's always a choice, I said. If you loved me, you would have trusted me and come to me. Even if I accept the first time as a forced momentary decision, you could have come to me afterward and told me. I'd be hurt. I'd be angry, but maybe I'd understand. I would have done anything for you, Julianne, anything. You've destroyed me, destroyed my trust in you, destroyed my love. No, please, she said, sobbing harder. Give me a chance. Let me prove to you, show you how much I love you. It's too late. There is nothing you could do or say that would make me believe that you love me, that you ever loved me at all. There was a rumble, and our front door nearly flew off its hinges. Ben stood in the doorway and looked at me. You little shit, he growled. You had to get in my way, didn't you? What, Ben? Julianne asked. He sent pictures and videos to Mary. She kicked me out. She's divorcing me, and it's all that snotty little shit's fault. No, Ben, Julianne said. It's all your fault. You forced me. You blackmailed me. Now your chickens have come home. If you want to blame someone, look in the mirror. He reached behind his back and pulled out a gun, pointing it at me. You're a small fucker, he shouted and pulled the trigger. I still don't know what happened next. I heard Julianne scream and saw her jump up. She wasn't walking towards him trying to get the gun. Her goal was to get between Ben and me. I heard a gunshot and saw a spray of blood as the bullet hit her in the chest. She went down like a sack of shit. Ben's eyes widened when he saw her fall, and he knelt down beside her. He barely had time to look up before the baseball bat I had retrieved from behind the couch hit him in the head. I went to the hospital with Juliana. She was unconscious. The bullet had hit her just right of center. She had lost a lot of blood. I sat in the back of the ambulance and held her blood-soaked hand. When we got to the ambulance, she was carried out and everything happened very quickly. I was taken to the front desk where I had to give our insurance information. By the time the paperwork was done, they had already taken her into surgery. I sat in the waiting room looking at the floor, at my hands, at the blood stains, and at my wedding ring stained with Julianne's blood. I'd take a bullet for her. A thought ran through my head. I remembered thinking that when I'd first suspected her of cheating on me, it was an indication of how much I loved her, that I was willing to take a bullet for her. And that's exactly what she did for me. The scene replayed in my mind. She knew there was no way to get to Ben, to get the gun. Her motive was to put herself between him and me. We all knew he would shoot. She was willing to sacrifice her life to save mine. "Uncle Steve!" Tabitha shouted as I entered the house that had been Ben's home 3 months ago. Ben was in jail awaiting trial. My blow to his head had put him in the hospital for a week, but he was released under police supervision. He was facing a long prison sentence. When I entered the kitchen, Mary looked up. She smiled at me, then came over and gave me a hug. "How did it go?" she asked. "Terrible," I replied. After lunch, I testified to the prosecutors who would be handling Ben's case. They were mean. Calculated that the defense would be mean and try to get me to say something that would benefit their client. I was determined not to do that. "Was this the last time?" A voice came from behind me. I turned and smiled at Juliana. "I guess it was. I'm told they have everything. They're going to charge him with attempted murder, not just assault with a deadly weapon." I walked over to where she was sitting at the kitchen table. She tilted her head and I kissed her. The road for Juliana had been hard, a month in the ICU and another in the respiratory unit of the hospital. Even now, she couldn't fully take care of herself. That's why I left her with Mary while I went to see the lawyers. Mary has been a godsend. She looks after Juliana when I have to run errands or work. I was able to convince my boss to let me work from home most of the time, so I'm by her side all the time. But sometimes I need to get away, and on those days, Mary and Tabitha come to our house, or I bring Julianne here. It took me almost an entire month while Juliana was unconscious on the ventilator to decide what to do. Mary found a recording of his first meeting with Juliana on Ben's phone. When she showed it to me, I wanted to go and smash Ben's head in with a baseball bat again. There were 2 files on his phone. One lasted about 10 minutes and showed Ben and Julianne making love, but the other, much longer, unedited, showed her crying and begging him not to do it. It is as clear from the second file that she is being forced as it is from the first that she is there. Voluntarily. It has been cleverly edited. So what Julianne said, at least about the first time, was true, and given the redacted file, we can assume she was telling the truth about the other times as well. But when it came down to it, the proof was in that very moment. The moment Julianne threw herself in front of bullets for me. The very measure I used to show her how much I loved her. I couldn't ignore it. I'd like to think that it was that night that I whispered in her ear that I believed her, that I loved her, and that if she would only wake up, we could be together again. I'd like to think that was the turning point. Up until that point, the doctors weren't sure if she would survive or not. I'd like to think that I gave her a reason to live, that just as she saved my life, I saved hers. The end!